You're listening to the AI Moment with me, Jonathan Wagstaffe.
And me, Danny Denhard.
And today we're going to talk about leadership and how you can improve your leadership skills using AI. So how, as an executive, you can partner with your AI tools to become a better leader. So, Dan, I think one of the observations I'd make early on this is I see lots of leaders who are using AI a lot, and they are doing a lot of, they're using it for ideation, and they're using it for content creation. They're using it to refine emails. They may be using it at home to do things, help the kids with their homework, but they're not taking advantage of the coaching capabilities that the AI tools, the big LLMs, have for us. There are actually specialist tools out there as well, but even the Geminis and the Chat GPTs have got a real strong coaching capability. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Let's take a step back and then we'll dive into the coaching element. What many people struggle with, especially with AI, is they see it as a partner, as in when they're doing work where areas they might struggle with analysis or stuff like that. So email comms is a great example. Flag it when I need more clarity, reduce the content length, show me any biases or blind spots I may have. They're great examples of how it can be your executive assistant or your executive coach. And then I think what a lot of people struggle with, or I believe people struggle with, is replying in Slack or Teams and having a lot of eyes on conversations. And it's because of the nature, it's instant chat. People will fire off a message and then go away, come back, relook at it and think, oh, the tone's off, or I might have said something I probably shouldn't have done or wouldn't have done if I had a little bit more time. So from an executive coaching perspective, I think a lot of the time what you can do is take that step out, fire it off to the Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude, ask for it to review it, remove any biases, remove any blind spots you might have, or tweak the tone slightly. And that's just one really quick way of doing it. The other way of doing it is ask them to show the traits that appear in my communications or in my style. And what I find particularly useful, especially using it as a coach, is improving presentations or improving communications, or asking it to come back to me and review some of the work or make some adjustments. So some of the prompts that we shared a couple of weeks ago, and I'll share it in the show notes, that just helps prove that you can use it in a number of different ways to help guide you. So whether that's gaining insight, asking for really quick analysis on what's in your calendar, understanding where you may be falling down or where you might have lose some traction in what you're doing, whether you're leaning into the right or wrong areas. So they're the sort of areas I find, and I help suggest why it can help improve your leadership and help coach you. Are there areas that you recommend people, Jonathan?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things it will do. So, for instance, aligned to what you just said, there's things like, okay, I've just had this long email from somebody. I want to write back to them and make these 2 or 3 points. Am I missing something? Can you read the email and tell me how you see it? If I put an email together that makes these 2 or 3 points, is that the right response? Can you help me draft the email so that it conveys this message to them? So it's a really good management tool from that point of view. It's helping you sense check your thinking. You can extend that, if you've got a number of communications from one individual, either, meeting recordings or lots of emails, you can feed all those in and say, right, here is this individual. Tell me what's the best communication methodology to use with this person. How do they communicate? How could I most effectively communicate with them? Do they like lots of detail? Do they like it as a summary? Do I need to be more assertive with them? Do I need to be less assertive? So it's very good at that kind of thing, I think. But also, I think you can start to use it as directly as a coach in things like, you can rehearse things like difficult conversations with it. You can set it up to have any tone you want. So, I was talking to a sales leader just before Christmas, and she was saying she set it up to be brutal with her. And she said, boy, was it brutal, right? She said, I want to make this presentation. I want you to be a really difficult customer. And she said it was properly difficult. So you can set it up to, help you rehearse conversations, rehearse presentations, sense check the tone, those sorts of things. It's very, very strong in that area. And so what you get there is you get a development coach who hasn't got an ego, who hasn't got an agenda, isn't under time pressure. So you get coaching at your own pace at whatever level you want. And it's something I would encourage any leader to go and explore that stuff, because there's so much to explore there.
I completely agree. It was interesting. You said just before Christmas in one of the episodes that you had worked through and recorded a conversation with a sales director or sales leader, and you worked through it, and then you pumped it into Gamma created a presentation. You just had to do 5 minutes tweaking. I find that insight and that correspondence with AI really does help a lot of leaders, especially if you're from a product background, a marketing background, or a sales background. Most CEOs or founders of companies get sales is one thing that they do get. Whereas from a marketing or a product perspective, they don't as much. So you actually have to work really hard on the narrative build and the storytelling. So you have to be a chief growth officer if you're a marketing leader now. You have to be a transformation officer if you're marketing. Same in product, you have to really think around all the different levers. So what I tend to recommend now is do a dry run in your presentation or some of the documents, talk it through, present it, and get, obviously, like you said, the feedback and the feedback loop. Ask it where you can improve, where I was strong, where I wasn't so strong, what I could cut out, what sides worked and what sides didn't. And I think that helps many different people. You can also do it with documents as well. I know a number of different leaders that do that with documents. So they talk it through, they walk it through, and then they have that as something that they go through. More and more recently, I ask it to, I recommend to C-suite leaders is, if you really struggle with your narratives, like building narratives or storytelling, get it to really critique it and ask it to come back and give you feedback on that. Because that's the difference. We all know that from our coaching that you and I do, Jonathan, is very often it's the packaging and the narratives that people struggle with, and to struggle getting that information. So that's the recommendation. Can I give you an exercise I recommend to people at the moment?
And go ahead, I'm all ears.
Cool. So I recommend people write down the 10 best traits and the 10 worst traits. So really analyze themselves. This is something I do with my coaching clients, and ask AI to come up with ways to improve it. So improve my 10 worst traits, or the 10 pieces of feedback I've got most. And this work stream really does proactively get you to partner with AI, but also make sure that you've got ways to improve, because people don't love negative feedback. And often you'll get stuck when you're being told you're not very good at something. So I find that's one of the best ways to basically get an exec coach and help you along the way to improve that. And it keeps you accountable. Ask AI to keep you accountable and give you tasks. And that way you're always working on that premise, and you're always working on yourself that way.
That's really good advice, I think. And one of the things, obviously, as you interact with it, it will learn you over time. So over time, it gets very good at giving you quite detailed feedback about how you behave and interact as a person. So I think the summary for me for leaders would be AI, if you use it cleverly, reduces some of the cognitive load. So, the things it does well, it does summarization well, it prioritizes things well, it clarifies things well, which frees you up to focus on things like judgment and relationships and vision, the bigger picture, if you like. And for me, the trick is not as a leader to know everything there is to know about AI, but actually to get AI to help you to think better. That's the goal. Can you use it as a tool to help you think better? That's the way to look at it, I believe.
Yeah, 100%. And if you feel like you want AI to keep you accountable and act like an EA or a PA, more likely an EA, you've got a load of information that is available and it can help you with. So as you said, you've got your email that it can review and connect in. It's got your calendar. It's got all your docs and your work suites that you can go through and help you on. So whether that's analysis or tone or sentiment analysis or those types of things, it can really help you and be like an executive assistant or a chief of staff that you'd have to pay a lot more money for rather than, say, £20 a month for.
I completely agree. And so I think the final comment to any senior executives, enterprise executives listening, if AI is something you've delegated so far down in the organization for others to go and find out about, this might be the time for you to have a little play yourself and see how you can get it to help you.
Definitely.
Good to see you, my friend, and I will see you next time.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for listening today, everyone. If you liked what you heard, please give us a rating and review in any of the podcast players. We have a supporting newsletter, which is aimoment.co.uk, that comes out on Mondays and Fridays with every pod, and we dive a little bit deeper. So please subscribe there. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.